I'm Mr. Ford, and today we're going to be taking a look at rounding. Content covered in this video includes the basics of rounding, rules around the number 5, rounding examples, and rounding examples when you're rounding place values inside of large numbers. Let's get started. So when we're talking about rounding, what we're really talking about is whether we're going to regroup up to the next greatest place value or down to the next possible 0. All right, so you can either round down to 0 or you can round up to 0. If you ever have a number you need to round and the place value should be rounding and the numbers after it are 0, well, then it doesn't move. There's some simple rules that you have to remember when rounding. So the first rule, pretty simple, is that if a number is under 5, so it's less than 5, that would be 1 through 4, you round down. If a number is above 5 or above halfway between one place value regroup and another, so 6, 7, 8, and 9, you would round up. Like I said before, if the number is 0 already that you're looking at rounding, you don't need to round it at all. It's already 0. And if a number is 5, depending on the rule that you're given, you might round down, you might round up, or you may leave the number as 5. 5 is smack dab in the middle. So if you're given a rule where you get to 5 and you round up, well, then you would round up. If you get a rule and you round down, then you would round down. If you're using decimal values and you get a 5 or a 0.5, you might just leave the 5 where it is, leave that value where it is. Let's try a couple of examples where we have numbers greater than 10, numbers with more than one place value. So here we have the number 13, and 13 has two place values. It has the tens on the left-hand side and the ones on the right-hand side. And in this question, let's say we've been asked to round this number to the next appropriate place value. Well, 110 is the place value that we're either going to be changing or leaving the same. Our number's either going to round down to the number 10 or round up to the number 20. And that depends on the number we have in the next smallest place value, in this case, the ones. The number in the ones is 3, and just like we talked about with our rules, when it's 3, you round down. So this number, 13, will round down to the number 10. Let's try another one. So here we have the number 78. We have 70 in the tens place value, and we have 8 in the ones place value. And we're trying to figure out if we are going to be rounding this down to 70 or up to 80. And for this, we'll look at the next smallest place value just as we did with the last number. So 8, of course, is much higher than 5. It's much higher than halfway. It's almost 10. So we're going to round this up, and this 78 will become 80. So far, we've been rounding smaller numbers. But what happens when the number that we're rounding has multiple place values, and we've been asked to round one of those place values, not necessarily the one at the end? Well, here we have the number 12,359, and we're going to go ahead and round a couple different place values within this number. This number has 5 different place values, as large as the 10,000s all the way down to the ones. And we're going to round to the nearest 10. That means that these first three place values, the highest place values, 12,300, aren't going to change. These numbers are going to stay the same. The only numbers we're concerned about are the tens and the ones. If we look here, 59, well, 9 is closest to 10, so we'll round up, and this 59 will become 60. But what happens if we're not asked to round to the nearest 10? What happens if we're asked to round to the nearest 1,000? Well, all of a sudden, this changes. We are concerned about the thousands place value. If you look here, we've got 12,359. The 10 from 12,000 in 10,000s, we don't care about it, won't change. But what we want to know is if the 2 in the thousands place value is going to change to 2,000 or if it's going to change to 3,000. Well, just like we've done with all of our other numbers, when you're rounding a certain place value, you look at the place values that are smaller than that. In this case, 359. Now you could look at the entire value of 359 and ask yourself if this is closer to 1,000 or closer to 1, or you can just look at the hundreds place. 3 is less than 5, so that means we're going to be rounding down, which means that this 12,359 rounded to the nearest thousand will be 12,000. And that's it. I'm Mr. Ford, and this has been Rounding. Content covered in this video included the basics of rounding, rules around being flexible with the number 5, rounding examples, and rounding within a larger number.